seagulls drift without a care. How I wish that I were there. I'd be putting on my island duds, munching on a piece of fudge, watching all the horses trudge along on Mackinac. Hiking past the Grand Hotel and up above the fort as well, taking in the lilac smell, then off to places who can tell. Coasting down to Market Street, where the land and water meet. Kick the waves with my bare feet a while on Mackinac. Everybody has a single reason why they come. It's just fun. It's just so much fun. No one's ever ready when the time comes to return to where you're from. Your vacation's done, so wave goodbye to your old friends. Ride the ferry round the bend. Dream about when you'll be back again on Mackinac. On Mackinac. Oh, the island life on Mackinac. Oh, those northern lights.
Early travelers found the route to Mackinac Island rough and uncertain. Maps were inaccurate, but detailed enough to mark safe harbors, havens from the often savage wind and waves. Today, visitors need only 10 minutes to fly from St. Ignace, round the south shore of the island, and head north to the airport, tucked away on the back of the Turtle, the name the Indians gave the island. The rock formations and virgin forests which blanket the island will remain just as those Indians first saw them. 80% of the island's area is state parkland protected from development. Three ferry lines traverse the straits dominated by the dramatic Mackinac Bridge. During the busy summer season, boats leave every 30 minutes from both Mackinac City and St. Ignace. The small ferries compete with heavy freighters, which ply the Great Lakes hauling ore and grain from western Lake Superior. boat pilots and passengers alike witnessed the spectacular sunset framed by the Mackinac Bridge. And with equal drama, playful whitecaps break over the ship's bow. The Round Island Lighthouse welcomes visitors as they approach the harbor. Now and then, the courageous traveler forgoes conventional transportation and picks up a paddle. The ferries deliver visitors to the pier just off Main Street with its numerous shops, hotels, and famous fudge factories. Mackinac Island is known for its fudge, and each candy maker is known for a specialty: black cherry, mint swirl, chocolate pecan. There's no fudging when it comes to fudge. The syrup is boiled at 232 degrees and poured onto a 4-inch thick marble slab. Marble offers the cooling properties the candy makers fancy. After the syrup is poured onto the slab, it's worked with a paddle. This method assures that the so-called slab fudge will recrystallize into rich, creamy candy. The recipe for many a visitor's sweet memory of Mackinac Island. But before the fudge, before the tourists, there was a rich history. Mackinac Island was not always an island. As the glacier which covered the area receded, it left behind a vast body of water known as Lake Algonquin. As centuries passed, the lake also receded, leaving only a shallow river, a river which swerved around a rock promontory sandwiched between Lake Michigan and Huron. Mackinac Island emerged many years later when the water levels finally rose. Among the oldest limestone rock formations on the island is Skull Cave. Legend has it that a British soldier hid in this cave to avoid capture by the Indians. When he awoke the next morning, the floor was covered with skulls, and the site acquired the ghoulish name of Skull Cave. Nearby Arch Rock, once a solid mass of limestone, is the product of powerful waters, erosion that ate away the center of the rock, leaving behind a remarkable arch. This is perhaps nature's most astonishing imprint on the island. The highest rock formation is the 75-foot Sugarloaf. It's believed the name comes from the Indians who may have collected honey from between the crevices. With a little imagination, you might see the face of one of those Indians emerge from the rock. High waves and winter storms carved what's notoriously known as Devil's Kitchen, but what some visitors now use for cooking up more innocent activities like rock climbing. Look along the rocky shore and you'll likely find fossils, many as old as 350 million years. Jesuit priests founded the first church on the island. It was a simple structure built of saplings, bent and tied at the top and covered with bark. A replica now stands in Marquette Park. Fur traders also helped write island history. French voyagers established the first industry by trading their trinkets and iron tools for the Indians' furs. John Jacob Astor, an Eastern entrepreneur, built this warehouse to hold the year's fur inventory before shipment to the East Coast, and eventually Europe. The fishing industry flourished, then faltered, and the island, known for commercial trade, entered the era of tourist trade. Wealthy city dwellers began to spend summers on the island to escape the heat and become a part of the evolving social life. Visitors could stop by Fort Mackinac and walk through the enlisted men's gardens below. The site of many a battle had become a quiet tourist attraction. Tourists were welcome. Cows were not. A turnstile at the fort's gate kept cattle in the pasture and out of the parade grounds. The Northwest and her sister ship, the Northland, were the show passenger steamers to the island. They arrived and left in a theatrical manner. Lake travel had come a long way from the Indians' canoes. Two of the earliest hotels on the island were the Mission House and the Island House. Visitors often sought refuge from everyday ailments here. With its elite clientele, the island became a haven for the healthy and the wealthy. The Grand Hotel was begun in 1887. This imposing structure, a Mackinac Island landmark, took only 90 days to build. Dozens of carpenters sawed and sanded the white pine lumber that had been transported over the ice as logs. You may recognize the hotel from a movie starring Esther Williams and Jimmy Durante. This Time for Keeps was shot at the pool in front. Or remember Someplace in Time starring Christopher Reeves and Jane Seymour? Special permission was given for the cast and crew to use automobiles on the otherwise vehicle-free island. Unquestionably, the hotel's covered porch is its trademark. It's the longest in the world, 627 feet. As the seasons come and go, so do the flowers. The spring blossoms with tulips. But throughout the year, gardeners are busy planting different varieties, some of which bloom until the first frost of fall. To make all the color, it takes a lot of green. An estimated $100,000 a year in formal plantings. A visit to the lounge on the hotel's top floor offers a view of the entire Mackinac Straits area. An 18-hole golf course is adjacent to the hotel porch. June is heralded in with the 250-year-old lilac trees. They burst forth with a brilliant array of color. It's a fitting time to hold a grand celebration. A bagpipe band from northern Michigan leads the parade that traditionally opens the festival. Wildflowers add even more beauty to the shaded woodland trails, as well as the rocky and sandy shoreline. Ducks and shorebirds find the island a perfect summer nesting ground. This duck and his partner have chosen this picturesque pond to train for a synchronized diving routine. Nature seems to have given them perfect timing. These white-mute swans perform as if they've been officially commissioned to welcome the arriving ferry. This mother and her brood go about their normal routine, not realizing the thrill they give anyone fortunate enough to be looking. A bald eagle soars above. Seagulls are seen everywhere. The ringbill and heron gulls are the most prevalent. The 4th of July is filled with tradition on the island. Contestants in the stone skipping contest take it very seriously. Many know just how to choose the stones. Proper diameter and thickness depends on the surface conditions of the water.
For everybody, and I hope everybody decides to come back next year. And
what's your secret, champ?
It's just good, clean living. That's what it is.
Independence Day ends with a glorious fireworks display with Lake Huron as the backdrop. Dr. Bill Chambers is president of Island Tours, the largest company of its kind in the world. Dr. Chambers also assumes the role of veterinarian, overseeing the care of 600 horses. The first fire engine on the island, along with a collection of antique sleighs and buggies, can be seen at Surrey Hill. Passengers stop there to change from a 2- to a 3-horse-drawn carriage to complete their tour. Each of the 600 horses are shod approximately every 6 weeks. Blacksmiths remove the worn shoes and file the hooves down to a flat surface before applying the new shoes. Each shoe is custom made. The front hooves are fitted with rubber shoes to absorb the greatest shock from the hard surfaces of the streets and trails. The rear hooves are fitted with metal shoes for longer wear. The horse doesn't feel any pain throughout the entire process. The north end of the island features an historical site where the British landed. They marched with their Indian allies through the night to take command of the American-held fort. The 8-mile highway surrounding the island is the only highway in the state that has no beginning and no end. There are many ways to get around the island as long as there isn't a motor involved. West Bluff, just west of the Grand Hotel, brings to mind the elegant lifestyle enjoyed by the wealthy families at the turn of the century. Each family would bring entire household and gardening staffs for their summer stay. Competitive sailors use the island as the finishing line for both the Chicago to Mackinac and the Port Huron to Mackinac sailboat races. The pool director of the Grand Hotel, Connie Case, was the first to accomplish the 9-mile swim around the island. Her 4-hour effort raised money for the renovation of historic St. Anne's Church. The historic stone church is a favorite choice of brides and grooms. Situated on a high cliff at the southern end of the island, Fort Mackinac overlooks the harbor and the straits beyond. Its strategic location was established by the British during the American Revolution. The fort remained under British control for the next 15 years and was then turned over to the United States, who maintained it until the British recaptured it with only a warning shot at the opening of the War of 1812. During the next 2 years, the British successfully repelled several American assaults, and the United States only regained possession through a negotiated peace on Christmas Eve, 1814. But the only weapons you'll see downtown today are part of a mock invasion. These reenactments downtown and at the fort are periodically carried out by ceremonial regiments visiting the island. This 9 o'clock wake-up call is not only for the fort, but for anyone sleeping in. Award-winning scout troops throughout Michigan get to perform in the daily flag-raising ceremony. Students working on the island during summer break reenact early life at the fort.
Cover your own ears. If you have a dog, you might want to cover its ears. Hearing aids you can turn all the way up for that maximum effect. Turn it down, you're going to hear this anyways. If you like to take a picture, just kind of kick back and relax. Lightly rest your finger on the shutter release of your camera. Upon our firing, you will flinch, simultaneously striking that shutter release, taking that perfect picture at the same time.
Sending flame down into the breech of the barrel, igniting our charge and sending the cannonball on its way to destroy the lighthouse. Here's a close-up.
He's got a 5-button coat there as opposed to the 4-button coat that would have been worn in the Civil War. And he's got those double white stripes going down the sides of his pants, also denoting him as the musician that he is. Let's have a round of applause for Dan.
In those days, opposing generals would simply call a temporary halt to hostilities during any rain. They had to make sure their gunpowder was dry.
Cartridge had a ball in the bottom, which we don't have for safety. You tear it. In order to join a British regiment, you had to have at least 2 teeth, one on the top, one on the bottom, because you had to tear these. If you didn't have 2 teeth, they didn't take you.
Visitors may even see a court-martial.
All right. The prisoner is sentenced to forfeit $8 of his $13 a month pay and be confined at hard labor under the charge of the guard for 10 days. The commandant approves the sentence and orders it to be duly executed. Please take the private away.
Public drunkenness was the most common cause of military court-martials.
I could win a Congressional Medal of Honor if they'd put me out for 2 months out west. That's where I wanted to go, you know. I was going to be an Indian fighter. That's what I wanted to do. But instead they got me sitting here being some kind of tin soldier for a bunch of rich people.
The annual Labor Day walk over the magnificent Mackinac Bridge is the climax of the summer season. Approximately 20,000 people follow Michigan's governor as he strolls the 5 miles from St. Ignace to Mackinac City. The remaining residents and guests make the most of each waning day of summer. Each season brings its own traditions. Fall is ushered in by the annual Antique Carriage Parade. Entries for the event converge on the island from many surrounding states. Some of the restored carriages are well over a century old. Autumn golf is popular. The oldest 9-hole golf course in Michigan is located near Stone Cliff Resort. Fall has arrived. Quiet prevails. The dark green of summer gives way to nature's glorious colors. Fall's gentle breezes are blown aside by the gusts of winter. The summer tourists are gone. The remaining residents experience the winter season. Snowmobiles replace carriages. A Christmas tree is erected in the middle of the once bustling Main Street. Food, drinks, lodging, and a social atmosphere are limited. The few remaining horses on the island furnish taxi service for skiers and holiday guests. Groomed cross-country trails usher skiers through the beautiful island forests. Winter transportation bringing guests and supplies to the island is available at the St. Ignace Airport. When an ice bridge forms between the island and St. Ignace, a safe highway for snowmobiles is marked by placing small fir trees along the well-tested route. As spring approaches once again, powerful icebreakers clear the channels. Another season of Great Lake shipping is underway, and so is preparation for another summer of festivities on Mackinac Island. Ice as a way of transforming what it touches. Look closely and you'll see the outline of a Great Lakes lighthouse located off the Grand Haven shoreline. Several feet of sparkling ice coats the structure, making it seem like a glistening tower of diamonds. The low winter sun reflects boldly on each pane of glass in the deserted summer cottages. The driving winds and crashing waves of violent storms make it obvious the region is in winter's tight grasp. The ice formations of late winter are enticing to visitors. The currents and wind vary the thickness from many feet to just a few inches. The attraction can be dangerous. There's no way to judge when a next step could end in an icy plunge. But it is a powerful attraction.